Every bike looks good in year one. The paint shines, the engine purrs, and you feel like you made the right choice. But give it a decade. That's when the truth shows up. Will your motorcycle still start on a cold morning, or will it be a Craigslist parts donor with a dead battery and a mysterious oil leak? The 10-year test doesn't care about hype, horsepower, or how many influencers posted it in the sunset. It cares about real miles, worn boots, and riders who actually kept the damn thing. Some bikes age like whiskey, others age like shrimp. And if you think you can tell just by brand or price tag, think again. We've seen cheap bikes go the distance, and premium machines fall apart before the warranty expired. So let's look at which bikes truly last and which ones start coughing after a few birthdays. Honda CB500 series. If motorcycles were appliances, the CB500 series would be that old refrigerator in your grandma's garage that just won't die. Introduced in 2013, this family of mid-sized Hondas has built a reputation for one thing above all: reliability. They don't look flashy, they don't set lap records, and no one's building fan pages for them. But when you check the classifieds, they're everywhere. Why? Because people buy them, ride the hell out of them, and keep them. The 471cc parallel twin is a low-stress engine. It doesn't make a lot of power, but it doesn't eat itself alive trying to. Owners report tens of thousands of miles with nothing more than basic maintenance. Oils, tires, chain, repeat. No valve nightmares, no weird overheating. And when things do go wrong, Honda parts are cheap and easy to find. They're commuter bikes, beginner bikes, budget tourers, and urban runabouts rolled into one. And they're often owned by riders who just want to ride. Not mod, not race, not flex. That might be the secret. The CB500s live boring lives, and that's exactly why they're still alive. You won't win the parking lot show, but you will still have a running bike when your friends' passion projects are collecting dust. Suzuki DRZ400S. This bike doesn't care about comfort. It doesn't care about looks. It barely even cares about the road. But the DRZ400S will keep starting, running, and dragging your sorry ass through any terrain you throw at it. Year after year, drop after drop. If there's a cockroach in the dual sport world, this is it. The engine is a 398cc liquid-cooled single that's been around longer than some riders have been alive. It's simple, it's durable, and it's designed to be beat up. The valve checks are easy, the parts are abundant, and the community of DRZ tinkerers is massive. Need to fix something? There's a forum thread for that. Want to mod it? There's a guide for that. Want to crash it into a ditch, pick it up, and ride home? Been done many times. Sure, it's carbureted. Sure, the seat feels like plywood. And yes, the suspension is nothing fancy. But none of that matters when the damn thing just works. 10 years in, you'll probably have new plastic, maybe a few bent levers, and a lot of scratches. But that thumper will still fire up on the button, ready to ride again. It's not a bike you baby, it's a bike you abuse, and it thanks you for it. Yamaha FZ07 MT07. The CP2 engine in the FZ07 and MT07 is the closest thing modern motorcycling has to a miracle. It's a 689cc parallel twin that sounds good, pulls hard, and shrugs off abuse like it's contractually obligated. Riders drop them, stunt them, commute on them, and ride them like stolen bikes, and they just keep going. The secret? Yamaha didn't overcomplicate it. No ride modes, no electronic wizardry, no unnecessary tech that ages poorly. Just a perfectly tuned engine, a lightweight chassis, and basic parts that are easy to service. Want to change the oil? It's easy. Need to do a valve check? Still easy. Dump it in the parking lot? You're probably fine. It's not just about what Yamaha did, it's also about what they didn't do. They didn't go full budget bin like some other middleweights. The build quality is solid, the wiring holds up, and the frame doesn't crack under pressure. A well-maintained FZ07 can clear 50,000 miles without blinking. A poorly maintained one can still probably do 30,000. 10 years later, you'll still see them wheeling out of gas stations and screaming through canyons. And being recommended to new riders. That's not hype, that's earned reputation. The FZ07 isn't a disposable bike, it's a reliable sidekick with a punch. Kawasaki KLR 650. The KLR 650 is like the cockroach of motorcycles. Hard to kill, impossible to impress, and guaranteed to survive the apocalypse. This bike doesn't care about performance stats. It doesn't care if you think it's ugly. It just keeps going, like a tractor with a license plate. For over 3 decades, the KLR has stayed true to one principle: simplicity above all. It's carbureted, at least before 2022, air-cooled, and has the personality of a loyal mule. You can cross deserts, bounce down fire roads, commute in city traffic, or haul groceries on it. And it will start the next day without complaint. Maintenance is basic. Change the oil, keep the chain lubed, and refill the gas. That's it. Sure, the suspension is squishy, the brakes are lazy, and the weight is somewhere between touring bike and dump truck, but that's not the point. The KLR 650 is built to outlast your expectations. It doesn't need premium fuel, it doesn't need your respect, and it sure as hell doesn't need constant attention. You can ignore it for weeks, and it'll forgive you instantly. A decade-old KLR with 70,000 miles on it is still considered just broken in by some riders, and that tells you everything you need to know. Honda ST1300. If reliability had a cruise control setting, it would be the Honda ST1300. This is the bike that police departments across the globe trust to run 24/7 in blistering heat or pouring rain, often with lights flashing and throttles pinned. That's not a coincidence. The ST1300 was engineered to take abuse and smile about it. At first glance, it looks like your dad's touring bike. Heavy, practical, a little too polished. But underneath that big fairing is a V4 engine that just doesn't quit. These motors routinely clear 100,000 miles with nothing more than oil changes, coolant flushes, and tire swaps. No timing chains exploding, no surprise electronics failures, just old-school Honda reliability in a tuxedo. Even the drive shaft adds to the longevity. No chain stretch, no sprockets to replace. Just smooth, low-maintenance power delivery. And while it might not be the lightest thing on the block, it carries its weight well and eats highway miles like a luxury barge. It's not sexy. It's not modern. It's not something influencers post on Instagram. But if you want a bike that'll carry you coast to coast without a hiccup and then do it again for the next decade, this is the machine. The ST1300 isn't flashy. It's forever. BMW R1200GS. Air oil-cooled era. Before BMW started stuffing their bikes with radar systems and touchscreens, they built tanks. And the air oil-cooled R1200GS is the perfect example. This is the bike that dragged adventure riding into the mainstream, and did it without falling apart every 30,000 miles like most high-tech machines do. The old-school Boxer Twin might look like a pair of engine cases bolted to a cow, but it works. It's easy to service, surprisingly torquey, and built to survive Dakar-style beatings. These bikes are known to cross continents and come back with nothing but bug guts and a worn-out seat. You'll see them with 80,000, 100,000, even 200,000 miles, and they're still chugging along like it's day one. It's not all sunshine. BMW parts aren't cheap, and dealer labor will slap your wallet around if you're not careful. But the payoff is a platform that's incredibly rugged when maintained right. No fragile plastic subframes, no overheating tantrums, and no "oops, my dash bricked itself again" moments. Just solid analog riding with legendary durability baked in. If your idea of a good time involves mud, gravel, and questionable gas stations in the middle of nowhere, the R1200GS, pre-water-cooled, is a time-tested beast. It's not hype, it's heritage. Harley-Davidson Dyna series. Let's get something straight. Dynas ain't flawless. They shake, they leak, they rattle like an old paint can at idle. But guess what? They're still running 10 years later, 20 years later, because underneath the noise and nostalgia, these things are overbuilt bricks with wheels. Harley's Dyna line, especially the twin cam era, has earned its rep not just from brand loyalty, but from actual road time. These bikes don't just sit in garages collecting chrome polish. They're daily riders, long-haul tourers, and bar hoppers that just don't die. As long as you're not the kind of rider who forgets oil changes or thinks redline is a suggestion, a Dyna will outlast most of what's parked next to it. The design is basic in the best way. Air-cooled V-twin, steel frame, belt drive, and old-school serviceability. If something breaks, there's a 99% chance someone's already made a YouTube video on how to fix it. Parts are everywhere, and the aftermarket is absurdly deep. You can keep a Dyna alive with just a socket set, some common sense, and the occasional angry cussing. Sure, modern Harleys are more refined, but the Dyna, it's the last of the raw-boned, unapologetic machines that were built to ride hard and keep going. Real miles, real scars, real life. But not every bike gets to ride off into the sunset with pride. Some machines start strong, but age like milk, falling apart, getting neglected, or turning into expensive paperweights way before the 10-year mark. Whether it's poor design, rare parts, or just bad luck, these are the bikes that didn't survive the test of time. Let's talk about the ones that didn't make it. Ducati 848, 1098, 1198 series. These bikes were born sexy, fast, and thrilling. But like a Hollywood starlet in a soap opera, they burned bright and crash hard. The Ducati superbikes from this era were iconic for their performance and design, but longevity, not so much. High engine temperatures cooked the internals and the rider's legs. The Desmo valve service, brutal. Electronics from that era aged like an old PC left in the rain. Immobilizers, dash failures, and random sensor tantrums weren't rare. And when something breaks, it's not a quick fix. It's an expensive one. Clutches wear fast, radiators leak. Even simple stuff like headlights or fairing brackets turn into a multi-day repair session because of the cramped, overcomplicated layout. It's not that nobody kept one running, it's just that the people who did either had deep pockets or saint-like patience. For the average owner, the honeymoon phase ends around year 4, followed by the dreaded parts hunt and eternal warning lights. You'll find a lot of these on Craigslist with phrases like, needs work, or just a small electrical issue, code for, I gave up. Great when new, stunning on a showroom floor, but unless you're ready for a long-term mechanical relationship, this isn't the forever bike you hoped for. KTM RC390, Duke 390, first gen. On paper, the first-gen KTM 390s look like the perfect entry-level weapon. Light, sharp, aggressive, like a baby race bike with street manners. But once you get past the honeymoon phase, reality hits like a seized piston. These bikes were fun at first, until the quality control roulette kicked in. Electrical gremlins were practically baked into the wiring harness. ABS modules failed randomly. The radiator fan had one job, and often failed to do it. Brakes warped, clutches wore out early, and even the paint faded faster than a discount tattoo. Ask any long-term owner and they'll tell you, the thrill gets expensive fast. And the parts support, KTM's idea of readily available often meant waiting months for basic components. For something designed as a beginner bike, it needed way too much babying. Some riders got lucky and had trouble-free bikes. Others, they spent more time learning about electrical diagnostics than cornering technique. A few mods and a careful rider could stretch its life, but for most owners, the RC and Duke 390 just didn't survive the 10-year test. Great for a first year, maybe 2, but as a decade-long companion, this bike's more Tinder date than life partner. CF Moto 300SS 650 NK. You know that friend who bought a knockoff GoPro for half the price and spent the next year defending it? It's the same thing, bro! That's kind of what owning a CF Moto feels like. Sure, the 300SS and 650 NK look sharp. They've got flashy styling, TFT displays, even decent power-to-price ratios. But once the showroom smell fades, so does the reliability. The plastics start to fade like they were dyed with Crayola. Welds rust if you so much as park near humidity. And the electronics? It's like the bike was coated by a guy in a basement working on a Chromebook. From sensors misfiring to fuel maps that feel like mood swings, nothing ever feels truly dialed in. But the biggest trap isn't the bike itself. It's the long-term support. Try finding parts in year 6. Try getting a decent mechanic who knows what he's looking at. Try explaining to potential buyers why you chose it over a used Honda. These bikes make sense today, but not tomorrow, or the day after that. CF Moto is improving, no doubt, but the 10-year test is brutal, and these early models just don't have the build quality, reputation, or support to survive the long haul. They're a budget gamble, and most riders don't win. Yamaha WR250X. On paper, the WR250X should be a decade-proof dream. It's a Yamaha, it's fuel-injected, and it's built like a dirt bike that learned manners. For years, it was the factory supermoto choice. Light, nimble, and just about bulletproof. And that's the catch. The bike itself isn't the problem. It's the fact that Yamaha pulled the plug. Discontinued bikes don't just disappear. They slowly fade into inconvenience. At first, you'll still find parts easily. But a few years later, suddenly brake rotors are back-ordered for months. Plastic bodywork? Forget it. Even mirrors become rare collectibles. The WR250X suffers from that dreaded parts purgatory. Too new to be vintage supported, too old to stay stock. It's also a niche bike, which means fewer were sold, which means fewer spares exist, which means when something does break, and it will, you better have a second bike to ride. Owners end up hoarding parts like preppers, or they stop riding the WR altogether just to preserve what still works. The bike didn't fail because it was unreliable. It failed the 10-year test because Yamaha walked away and the aftermarket barely noticed. If you already own one, treat it like a classic. But if you're shopping today, don't fall for the legend unless you're ready for a lifetime of scavenger hunts. Suzuki SV1000. The Suzuki SV1000 had one job: be the bigger, badder sibling of the wildly successful SV650. But instead of becoming a cult classic, it became an awkward middle child. Too thirsty to be practical, too heavy to be playful, and too forgotten to be supported long term. Yes, it had a leader class V-twin that sounded glorious with a set of pipes. And yes, it shared some DNA with the TL1000. But where the SV650 charmed riders with simplicity and balance, the SV1000 stumbled with a stiffer ride, abrupt throttle response, and a weight penalty that dulled its edge. It never caught on with the masses, which meant Suzuki didn't bother evolving it or stocking spares for long. Now, 10+ years later, most SV1000s you find are beat to hell. Neglected valve services, corroded wiring, cracked plastics, sketchy fuel pumps. This bike is a landmine if it hasn't been pampered. And even well-kept ones struggle with dwindling aftermarket support. Try finding a replacement ECU or tank without jumping through eBay hoops or calling junkyards. It's not that the SV1000 is a ticking time bomb, but its parts availability, lack of love from the factory, and general neglect by previous owners make it a gamble in the long run. You're better off with the bike it tried to beat, the humble, indestructible SV650. Buell anything. R.I.P. Ah, Buell, the rebel child of American motorcycling. Born from innovation, raised on weirdness, buried under corporate heartbreak. On paper, a Buell is everything a rider says they want. Lightweight, torque-heavy, corner-hungry, and proudly different. But in practice, keeping one alive for 10 years is a full-time hobby. Let's start with the basics. These bikes were engineered by Eric Buell to flip the rule book. Fuel in the frame, oil in the swing arm, and brakes that look like spaceship parts. Cool, yes. Practical, only if you never plan on dropping it or replacing anything. Because once Harley-Davidson killed the brand, and EBR came and went like a fever dream, parts became a scavenger hunt. You want a new fuel pump? Better hope someone's parting out a wreck in Michigan. Worse, Buells were often bought by enthusiasts who rode them hard and sometimes didn't maintain them with the same passion. Now, they're decade-old bikes with unique components, questionable wiring, aging fuel systems, and frames that need love from someone who speaks fluent Buell. If you're a mechanical masochist, a Buell can still be a joy. But for anyone hoping for long-term reliability, ease of maintenance, and dealer support, it fails the 10-year test. Gloriously, stubbornly, but undeniably. A lot of bikes feel bulletproof in the first year. They're shiny, fast, and everything works until time starts picking fights. 10 years separates the hype machines from the true legends. It reveals who was built to last and who was built to sell. If you're in it for the long haul, pay attention to what survives, not what screams the loudest in reviews. And if your dream bike ended up on the fail list, don't panic. Love is irrational, and any bike can live long if you treat it right. Just be ready to wrench more and ride less. Now tell us, what bikes have you seen still running strong after a decade? Or which ones fell apart the second the warranty expired? Drop your war stories in the comments and let's see which bikes truly earn their scars.